and welcome to another episode of Come Sit Down, Let's Talk. I am Master Life Coach Michelle Kennedy, Chief Curator of Embrace You Training Solutions, also known to many as Miss Get You Together, honey. So we are in week 3 of a 4-part series on comparison. Jonathan McReynolds sung a song that said comparisons kills. There's a lot of things that comparisons do, not just to who you are, but to who you've been created to be. So as we begin to unfold the information and deal with comparisons in so many areas. Now, week 1, we did comparisons on church, comparisons in ministry, comparisons in work, and how they affect the way that we perform. Week 2, we did size and body comparison, how it doesn't matter whether you're a size 2 or a 22, you still can suffer from comparison. And now we're going to dive into color complexion. Our melanin comes in so many colors. Like, we're the only race that comes in so many colors, and regardless to what color you are, it's beautiful. So I have brought with me 2 amazing young ladies, and we're gonna tackle comparison colorism. So Alexis, this is my boo. Like, I've been watching her grow.
That makes me feel old.
You're not. It makes me feel old. So would you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell the people who you are and the amazing things that you do?
Of course. I am Alexis. I am a senior at the Bulls School. I am a state champion in soccer and track, and I do musical theater, and I am a poet.
And that's what we do for the poetry. Come on here. Tiffany, tell us about you.
So, hello everyone. My name is Coach Tiffney, better known as Coach Tiff. I am a editor-in-chief of Duval Connect magazine. I also am a youth coordinator for Fresh Ministries, Fresh Futures program, and I'm a lover of community. So, anything community, anything kids, that is me. That's my heart. That's just what I aim to please. I'm a servant. If anything else, I'm a servant.
So tell the people where they can find information about you and what you do.
So you can find me on Instagram, Tiffney Marie Co _. My name is spelled Tiffney. There is no A. And you can also find me on my website, tiffneymarieco.com.
Thank you. So we're going to dive right in. So the question we've been starting every conversation with is, can you share with us a time that your color was compared, or maybe you compare your colors to other, and how did that make you feel? Who's going to start?
You want me to start? Okay. So, as a brown-skinned girl, I have a lot that actually goes through my mind with this particular question. The one in particular that I can remember is in 6th grade. I was on the phone with a friend of mine. She was a white girl, and her dad picks up the phone. We were just talking, we're little girls, and her dad picks up the phone and goes, "Are you on the phone with the N-word?" And I'm in 6th grade now. I never, I grew up, I learned about Rosa Parks, I learned about Martin Luther King, but I had never necessarily been attacked that way to actually identify those feelings. And so I think for the very first time in my life, I really understood what it meant to be darker, or to not be of a lighter complexion, and to see like all of that come together. Like, that's really what you think of me when you see me. You don't think of my work ethic. You don't think of who I am as a person. You thought of my color. That was the one thing. So that one really sticks out in my mind.
Okay. What about you?
For me, I mean, again, like I said earlier, I go to Bulls. So Bulls is a predominantly white school. So for me, it wasn't really about comparing myself to other people in a way where it was like, oh, well, I'm not. It was more about not being around other people who looked like me at all. Especially since I'm biracial. I'm not like completely black. I'm not completely white. I either saw just white or just black. So my entire life was really just a comparison of, oh, well, I'm not this enough or I'm not that enough. And it was just a conflict of being like, you have to pick. But I don't. And that's kind of what I grew up in.
That's interesting. Didn't even see it from that perspective. having to make a decision what you're going to be instead of just being able to be you. I know for me, I grew up in an interesting dynamics. My mom had 7 kids. My dad had 7 kids. I'm the only child my mom and dad had. My dad was biracial. My dad was Cherokee, Indian, and white. My mom is beautifully brown, along with my siblings. So I'm the only light skinned person
In the clan.
in the clan. So whenever we take pictures, it's like, oh, so brothers and sisters, who is this?
And she is.
Yeah.
My sister.
I'm a sister. So growing up, always knowing that I was different. I remember in 9th grade, my dad, after he retired from driving school buses, he started driving. From trucks, he started driving school buses. And my cousin told everybody the white man that drove that bus was my dad. So people literally said, I didn't know your dad was white. I was like, he's pretty light skinned. Yeah. He's light. So I knew from the very beginning that I was different. Being in a house where you look like no one but my dad, he was the only one I looked like. But the environment I grew up in, that didn't seem like a bad thing. Because to my siblings, I was their little doll. Oh, she's the bright skinned doll. And sometimes you just want to be the same as everybody else. Yeah. So how does it make you feel when you have to pick?
It's not fun. I mean, especially when you're in an environment where everyone's like, well, you have to pick like right now. It's not something that you want to pick. I mean, it doesn't really feel like a choice. Like my mom tells me all the time that I can be both. She's like, you don't have to make a choice. You know, it's not, you can't let other people force you to choose something that you don't want to do. And I think it was really hard for me to cope with that because I felt like I had to stand like in one way, but you don't. It's really that simple.
Kind of have the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So Tiffany, how did it make you feel though, and how has that continued in your life?
So it took me a long time, really honestly, to love being brown skinned, being, a darker brown skin. I grew up in a family where dark skinned people were called blackie. I grew up in a family where that was just a thing, and it wasn't a bad thing, I guess. But at the same time, when you grow up and you realize, you're like, that was kind of like borderline painful or hurtful, something to say to someone. And then to go to school and thinking, because after a certain grade, I started going to predominantly white schools. So if it wasn't, I was being compared to someone white, I was being compared to someone lighter skinned. And I had to find my way trying to work harder than both parties to even be seen. And so a lot of the times it was hard because it was like, I can't just be who I am and everybody just love me for who I am. Or now I have to work harder than you guys to even make the bare minimum. And so even down to trying out for certain roles, auditioning for certain things. I remember, again, 6th grade singing at our little talent show was something we did in the classroom because I went to La Villa. And I know I did a really good job singing my song. I'm Going Down. Yeah, a 6th grader, Mary J. Blige was singing I'm Going Down. But anyway, another girl won. I mean, she was good, but the energy that she gave everybody, it wasn't the same energy that I gave, if I could say it that way. But she won first place. And now that I think about it, I realized, well, she had the long hair. She was lighter skinned. Everybody loved her because she had this, and that, and the third. But I didn't have any of that. All I had was my voice. You know what I mean? So it was a struggle. It was a struggle trying to be okay with who I was in my skin, be okay with the fact that I'm brown. And there's nothing wrong with that. Matter of fact, I'm really beautiful in my brown skin. So I had to find that space. And I think I recently found that within a few years. So I went through all of my adolescence trying to fit in or trying to, figure out what it looked like to be lighter, or what did I have to wear differently to get people's attention, to get boys' attention, to get adults' attention. And that was just so much as a child trying to figure that out. When can somebody just see me for who I am?
There was a study done some years ago where they actually had dolls that were different shades, and they set the dolls in front of the children, and they were like, who do you think is pretty? They all picked the lighter skinned doll. Who do you think is ugly? They picked the darker skinned doll. Who do you think is a good person? The lighter doll. Who do you think is a bad person? The darker doll. And how they were taught to correlate the person's goodness based upon their color.
Yes.
As little kids. So it is a big issue because we equate lighter being prettier when we're all so beautiful, and it plays into your identity. Like, and it's funny to hear because we have two totally different sides. Where here you're fighting to find out who your identity is in your light skinnedness, as they say, and you're trying to fight to find out who your identity is in your dark skinnedness. And they will pit us against each other when we literally have the same struggle.
Yes, that's the thing. We definitely have the same struggle.
So if there was something that you could say to someone who's battling with their identity of being biracial, what would it be?
I would just say, try not to focus so much on what other people think you should do. Because for me, it was always, oh, well, this person thinks I should do this, and this person thinks I should do this. And if I don't do this, I'm going to upset that person. But if I don't do this, I'm going to upset someone else. And I know, especially going to the school that I go to, it was definitely like, well, especially like in history debates very specifically, people were like, you need to pick this side because you're black. But then the white kids were like, oh, but you're half white, so what if you argue for this side? So it was like, you're letting other people's opinions impact your opinions. And you can't let what other people think you should think, impact what you actually know is right.
I wish somebody had said this to us. I mean, you are so far ahead just with having that, because some of the struggles we endured because we allow other people to tell us who we should be and what we should pick. Like, you're so far ahead. And I'm proud of you for being able to stand up and have your own voice. So, Tiffany, if you could say something to that sixth grader who's struggling with their beautiful brownness, what would that be?
Brown skinned girl, you just like pearls. Like, there's nothing more beautiful than your brown skin. The way the sun hits your melanin and the way that it shines and it shimmers, it's a beautiful thing. Like, continue to look into the mirror and tell yourself that you are beautiful. If nobody else tells you, as long as you believe it, you'll become what you believe. You'll become what you put in your spirit. You'll become what you put in your system. So continue to love yourself through. And it won't always be good days. You're going to struggle some days, but get back up, try it again, love yourself through, and you'll be right all right.
That poet started just rolling out. Come on here. It's amazing to be able to bring this topic up. All of the topics I've found to be relative in my own life, but this one may be more than others because people try to put an identity on you, and when you've not had the foundation who tells you who you are, it's so easy for you to fall into the trap of what people say you are. Yes. And fighting through that trap sometimes makes you an angry person. Yes. Yes. Oh, sound like I hit something. Come on and share that thought with us, Lexi. Don't worry, I'm coming down your street too.
I don't angry. I don't know if angry is the right word. I would say more just, it made me upset.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you're upset, you channel anger instead of sadness.
Mm-hmm.
So you choose to be more upset at people, and you're like, oh, well, this is your fault that I feel this way, and it's you, and it's you, and it's your fault, and it's you. But it's really within yourself that you're having your own issues, and you're blaming other people, and you're like, oh, well, this is you. But really, you have to take a second and you have to be like, okay, well, what do I think? And why do I feel this way? So you're angry on the outside, but inside you're just hurt, and you're confused, and you don't know where to go. And I think that's why when you said anger, I was like, is it anger or is it really just turmoil inside of you?
That's good. That's good. From the mouth of babes. Tiffany, come on, what you got for them?
It can be, I think I'm in the same sentiments here, where it's like, I don't know if it's anger, but definitely disheartening. Because on one hand, it's like, I have all these talents. I have all these things that God blessed me with, but still at the end of the day, somebody finds a way to diminish who I am as a person based off the color of my skin, the shade of my skin. And what I loathe about it most is that it does pin us against each other because, oh, I'm darker, you're lighter, but that doesn't mean that we're not sisters. That doesn't mean that we don't have same commonalities. That doesn't mean that we won't have differences. But what are those differences? How do they make us better? How do they make us the same, right? And so we don't get to see a lot of that because we automatically go into defense mode. We automatically go into, I gotta be better and I gotta do this better, when in actuality, we could kill a lot of the cycles of this if we learn to work together, if we learn to say to each other, that's not true what they said to you. That's not who you are. That's not, you are this, you know who you are. Speak those things, over your life, and so it gets disheartening when people forget we're all human. At the end of the day, I'm just kissed a little differently by the sun. God mixed a little bit more chocolate in mine. There's a difference. Or he didn't want you to be so chocolate. And that's okay. But the pinning against each other, I pray one day we get to a place where we can actually heal and know that we can come together and we can love each other in all shades of the rainbow. So, yes.
I think it was taught to us by our slave masters, where if you were lighter skinned, you were a house slave, and if you were darker, then you were put out in the fields. So when it comes to us being pitted against each other, like it's so deeply rooted, and we can break the cycle by starting just to embrace who we are. We see people how we see us.
That's true.
And when you are okay with you, you are okay with others. Like, it doesn't bother you that someone looks different, or you don't have a need to be inferior to someone because they're a different shade than you are, because we're all beautiful. And the thing is, it's like our skin tones and the amount of melanin that's in our skin is based upon what was needed from where we came from. When you come from regions that the sun is more prevalent, you were given more melanin to defense yourself from the sun. And then those who were in regions where it was cold, like, you didn't have a need for it. So it all has purpose. We all have purpose. And our color does not define what that purpose is. So, Tiffany, tell me what you think at this point your biggest struggle is with comparison.
I don't know if it is color.
Okay.
For my comparison. But now, which is funny because I did struggle with it for a long time. But I would say mine is more feeling qualified. And so not comparing myself to any other's work because they have a degree or they have a certain certification. I don't have a degree. And so I think for a long time, I personally held that over my own head. Like, you can't do anything because you don't have a degree. Or, I started a job where someone had master's degrees and I felt like they was going to run circles around me, which in actuality, I ended up running circles around them. So, but struggling with, just being okay with like what I have and knowing that my experience still qualifies me. God still qualified me. He gave me those experiences so that I could be able to step into rooms where I'm not really supposed to be in, if people had a say. So I think that's where my biggest space has been recently.
That's interesting. That's interesting. So it's the piece of paper?
In retrospect, yes.
It's the piece of paper?
Yeah.
Oh. So I share with people often, I'm put in places that I know I don't qualify for because God qualified me. I think it's the identity struggle with who we are that runs over into everything that we do. And it may shift from one area to the other. Like you're good with color now, but now you're comparing qualifications in a piece of paper. But knowing that everything you need, God gave you. And He gave us every single thing we need. Like there's nothing that we're lacking. Like He made the earth, and on the sixth day He went and rest when He finished. Because everything was finished, including you. So Lexi, what do you think is your struggle with comparison now?
I would say ability. If I could explain that better, it's like when you're good at something, but you're not as good as someone else at something. So you're always comparing, oh, well, I'm good, but I'm not that good. And it's a constant, like, you feel like it's a constant reminder of, oh, I'm good, but I could be better. And it makes you feel like you're never able to reach a goal that you've set up for yourself that no one asked you to set up. So that's probably my biggest one right now.
So where do you think that comes from, though?
I don't know. I think I've always just been a person who wants to be really good at things. Like, I've always been a person who's like, oh, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to be really, really good at it. And so I just feel like I've always been a person who defines, like, accomplishments as, like, oh, well, if I accomplish something, then that means I'm good. And if I don't accomplish anything, that means I'm bad.
That's interesting. So when it comes to comparing ourselves to others, like when we're in that constant battle of comparison, like we never truly realize how amazing we are. Because when we're looking at others to compare ourselves now, like there is healthy comparison, don't get me wrong. But when it becomes your goal to be someone else in comparison, like then we rob the earth of what we've been given to live in the earth. This has been good. I am Master Life Coach Michelle Kennedy, and thank you again for watching another episode of Come Sit Down, Let's Talk. We are in week 3. We have one more week. Come back and see us. Same time, same bat channel. All right.
With Embrace You, I found a career.
At Embrace You, I found a family.
At Embrace You, I found me.
Are you the strong friend who's always giving advice? Are you the one always mentoring and coaching? Have you thought about being a certified life coach? Because here at Embrace You, we have room for you in our family.
I am Embrace You.
I am Embrace You.
I am Embrace You.
And you can be Embrace You.